Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello.
Welcome once again to the 15th annual Russell Ferber Foundation fundraiser happening this year virtually online. And I have to say that the interviews that we've already done have been amazing. It's really gratifying to be able to showcase all the people that have helped us put this event together every year and all the people that have so many great Russell stories that get to be corroborated, and people that knew Russell. It's really amazing to be able to connect with everybody. And tonight is a special night. We have a lot of chefs on tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking with Carolyn Beard, who was Russell's baking partner while he was at the Culinary Institute of America, and was I think instrumental in making sure that he was a professional at all times. And also we're going to be talking to two chefs that Russell worked with. We're going to be talking with Bobby Flay, who was the first chef Russell really worked for here in New York, where he found his love of cooking. And after his tenure at Culinary Institute during his, for his externship, Bobby recommended that he work with the talented George Morrone out in San Francisco, who Russell was quickly becoming his next protege when tragedy struck. So welcome everybody to what is hopefully the only virtual fundraiser we have to do, but glad that we get together, have this opportunity to get together.
It was after he worked for Bobby that he actually met Carolyn, because he came home from working at Mesa Grill. He came home one day and said that he wanted to go to culinary school. Then I said, "Oh, okay." And then when he got himself into the French Culinary Institute, which is where Bobby went. And originally they said they had no openings, but he charmed them to have an opening. We all went there for lunch. And I said to Russell, I said, "You have to work in a restaurant for 6 months before I'm going to spend any money to send you to culinary school," having just thrown out almost $20,000 at college. So, and Bobby, you were next because you took him on.
I did take him on, and it was, David and I, his dad, have had a long relationship. I mean, David, you've been in my life since before I was an adult. I mean, which is a long time ago.
A bag of diaper pins.
Yeah, exactly. And there was something I saw in Russell that I saw that I sort of had, it reminded me of myself. I mean, I dropped out of high school when I was 16, and so the one thing that I saw in Russell was that he needed a little direction. He had an amazing amount of very positive energy, and he needed a place to put it. And I thought, a kitchen might really work for him, because there's a lot of energy in a kitchen. At the time, it was Mesa Grill on 15th Street and 5th Avenue. It was like, at the time, it was one of the hot restaurants in New York City. It was very, very busy. It was a big restaurant. It was bustling. We had a lot of fun in the kitchen. It was, a very sort of, fun and social environment, but at the same time, everybody worked really hard. And I just felt like, I talked to, his parents about it, and it just seemed like a place where he could almost be distracted from all his outward energy that he was exerting in every direction. But at the same time, maybe it would draw him in, which basically is what happened to me. It's like I dropped out of high school. I needed a place to put my energy, and another one of David's clients, Joe Allen, took me in and gave me my first job there. And it really obviously changed my life. And I thought, if this could work for me, this could work for other people as well. And I just thought Russell would be a great candidate for that kind of environment. Because, the bottom line is, I mean, nowadays, it's like Food Network, Top Chef, Iron Chef, you name it. It's like food and media has become, sort of hand in hand. But back in the day, I mean, George can attest to this, it was just, if you wanted to be in the culinary world, like, you were either a cook or a caterer. I mean, and that was basically it. And you did it because you loved to cook, and you wanted to work with your hands. There was no way I was going to be able to learn through a textbook. It was absolutely not going to be my road to success. I didn't know that at the time. But when I picked up a knife and I started doing something with my hands and creating something the first time in my life that I was really like, I really have found something I really like to do every day. And I thought that Russell could use some of that as well. And so that's why, in many ways, he really fit into Mesa Grill. That said, I mean, one of the things that we all loved about Russell was that, he was, he thought he could rule the world at any time, in any part of the world. And when I say the world, I don't mean the world at large. I mean, it could be, Madison Square Garden. It could be Mesa Grill. It could be New York City. It could be anything that he thought that he wanted to run next. Like that was the thing. He had all this incredible pent up energy. We just needed to help him focus it a little bit because he was so young. He thought
Jordon has a great story about that. Jordon, tell the story of what he did when he was in Vail, because that's such a cool story.
I always love this story. It's classic Russell, in my opinion. He was before he went to CIA. He was working. He had met this other Bobby Mundell at your restaurant, who took him with him to open a string of restaurants, starting in Tucson, and then to Colorado. And when he decided he wanted to go to CIA, he decided that he, needed to give his notice, and Bobby ended up firing him because of that. But he skied for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Like you do.
Yeah.
I had my uncle and his 3 kids came out to Vail during that ski season, and they all went skiing together in Vail. And they went to this restaurant, Sweet Basil, which was a hot restaurant at the time, and they couldn't get a table. They didn't have a table available till like 10 o'clock at night. And Russell, being Russell, as they were leaving, he grabbed their business card off the thing, and he called the restaurant as they were walking away, and he pretended to be you on the phone.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, he said he was like, "This is Bobby Flay calling from New York. One of my chefs who works in my restaurant is out there with his family, and he'd like to come in and have dinner."
So they gave him a table like in 3 weeks from now.
No, they like Goodfellas the table into the corner, and he got it like 20 minutes later. He was eating.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That's a great story.
Well, his father still does that about once a week, I'm sure.
Well,
This is a small diversion, but it's also cute. Celebrating our 25th anniversary, Dorothy and I,
We're in London.
Russell's parents, were in London, and we decided to celebrate the literal anniversary date by going to Nobu in London. And I called your office, Bobby, and spoke to Stephanie, Bobby's assistant, and told her that I had called the restaurant, and they said, in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something,
Yeah.
we'll have a table ready for you, Mr. F. And I asked her if she could help, and she said, "Let me see what I could do." And about 3 hours later, she called me back. She said, "I called several times. They didn't pick up. I finally got through, and I introduced myself as Bobby Flay's assistant, and I wanted to make a reservation for dinner for tonight or the next night." It was a very close time frame. And they hung up before I got a chance to give them your name. So you may have to show up and say you're Bobby Flay. We did show up. The reception area had about 75 to 100 people. You could barely get to the desk, and I had to kind of wait and then kind of snake through. And I said, "I think a reservation's been made for us, but in the name of Bobby Flay." "Oh, Mr. Flay!" And they did the same thing. They put us in a table that they must have thought you would love. And the waiter said, "I understand you're a super VIP. Whatever you would like tonight, just say the word and we will create it for you."
That's nice. I'm glad to hear that.
They did give me a check, and they took the David Ferber credit card. I could tell you that.
Right.
Sure.
No, our waiter was very cute. He said, "I don't know why you're famous, but I'm supposed to take very good care of you."
Your credibility is pretty wide, Bob.
Right.
Well, so, I mean, the one thing that, Russell showcased to me was that, he had the desire to do it. And when he, after he decided to go to school and on and on and on, and he wanted to work for somebody who was really great, he had said to me that he wanted to go work in some like resort. Was it a resort or a hotel?
Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton.
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. The
Yeah,
Ritz-Carlton
St.
Hotel.
Thomas, which like
St. Thomas.
How old was he at the time?
19, 20?
19.
Yeah, of course. I'm gonna go work at the Ritz-Carlton in St. Thomas. I get it, but like it would be like he'd be sitting under a palm tree somewhere. I mean, and that's what they think they're going to be doing. And I said to him, I was like, look, you have to go work for the best chef in the country, and I think I can help you out there. And so I turned him on to George Morrone. Listen, George, I talk about you all the time. I was talking about you tonight before we came on. I was sitting with my girlfriend. I was telling her the stories about you and I, and like, to me, you're one of the best chefs that America has ever sort of rolled out. And the fact that Russell got a chance to see your wares and work alongside of you is like, I'm sure was one of his great moments.
Thank you so much, Bobby. And well, Jordon, can I go? Or
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, just I'm going to pick off how Bobby segued into it about Russell. First of all, thank you, Bobby, and it means the world to me because I feel the same way about you. You're amazing. You're amazing. You influence so many people along the way, and still continue to do so. When Russell got to me via Bobby, and I don't even know if he called me back then or whatever, but doesn't matter. When Russell walked into my kitchen, I immediately, just like Bobby said, I saw myself. And I saw myself even more because I left Manhattan, what had I done by that point? I don't know. After Charlie Palmer, I think I did the Phil Suarez thing called Bar Louie or whatever. And then I came out west. And when I came out west in '84, I had all the swag. I had hair down on my shoulders, was wearing red high tops, and they looked at me like, who the hell is this kid? He's nuts. Anyway, Russell
You
kind of
certainly
walked
made your
in.
mark in LA.
Excuse me?
You certainly made your mark in LA.
Well, it started in San Francisco first, then I went to LA, and then I came back and, opened when I became, what Bobby did with Bolo and Mesa. That was Aqua. But Russell came to me after the fifth floor where Bobby had dined, which he said the most kindest words.
One of the best. I remember it today. Seared foie gras, jalapeno, pomegranate broth. That shit, it was so good. To this day, I haven't been able to make it. It's amazing.
It was not pomegranate, pineapple. Remember, this is a pineapple.
Yes, exactly.
The pineapple consomme thing. Yeah, I don't know.
The best soup I have ever had still in my life was at Redwood Park, the restaurant Russell worked at. It was a foie gras and roasted chestnut soup.
Well, that was ode to Jean-Louis Paladin. But I think we pulled it off pretty well because, all right, so fast forwarding quickly, that's where Russell came, was Redwood Park. So it's after I left the fifth floor, and that was one of my, like we all have accolades in our lives, and to get, there was no Michelin stars back then, to get 4 stars twice in your city and do it 10 years apart was pretty, it was probably one of the biggest, one of my greatest, for me, one of my favorite moments. But all that being said, I had moved on to Redwood Park, and either you called me, Bobby, or I forget how it all went down, but this little skinny Jewish New York kid walks into my kitchen, and he had a stride in his step, and he had piercing eyes, and he'd look you in the face, and I just smiled, and I'm like, I guess I looked at his background. I saw it was pastry and so on and so forth. But like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to do everything. I want you to teach me, I want to work all these positions, all these stations. And this is the funny part, Bobby, you're going to laugh because when I came out here, trust me, I still here to this day, 35 years later. I love the West Coast. It's great style of living. But they really don't get East Coast people right off the bat. And I got Russell immediately, and I just smiled because I saw what you saw, Bobby. Yeah. But everybody on my staff couldn't stand them. And I would just shake my head. And they're like, Chef, why are you, protecting. Someone made the mistake of saying protecting this young man or whatever they said. I'm like, I looked at him, I'm like, I'm not protecting him. I'm like, you're coming to me because he's working circles around you day in and day out, day in and day out. And after he's done with his list and his job, he comes to me and says, what can I do next? What can I do next? So he brought this work ethic that I think we all know what we're talking about. Besides work ethic, passion, and he'd look you in the eyes. And like Bobby said, nervous energy. He never held back. He would take people on toe to toe. And for me, I had missed that for so long living out here, kind of, turned into a little California raisin after a while. But he just reminded me of how I got to where I was. And then knowing that Bobby had sent him, and then just watching him work, and then meeting, you guys, Dorothy, David, and Jordon. The love, success starts from the family in my book. And
Well, I do remember that Russell started working for you right after Thanksgiving. And I'm sorry, honey, right after Thanksgiving. And you actually, a few weeks later, invited him to your house for Christmas dinner.
Well, I'm going to pull this down. Hang on 1 second. I invited Russell. I said, what are you doing for the holidays? Can you see this?
Right.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
I'm like, I was like, I don't know, we're doing Christmas Eve dinner. And he's like, Chef, I'm Jewish. I said, I know that. But this young man showed up to my house, and let me see what the date on this is.
Oh, he brought the bottle. I love it.
He showed up with a vintage Dom Perignon.
And a present for Sydney, because he called me, what do you buy a 7-year-old girl?
1990, I don't have my glasses, sorry guys. 98 or 93, one of those two numbers. And this is an extern, but it showed me value of his values, how he was raised, and the fact that he couldn't be with his family, and I invited him into my home, that he was classy, very classy, and very smart and very appreciative. And that's the big word I want to use, because this goes back to you, Bobby. I think Russell was so appreciative of when he fell into your life, what you gave him, what you showed him, the direction you pointed him into. And those are the things, to this day, this bottle's on my mantle. And actually there's a rolled up note in here. I haven't pulled it out here in a long, long time. Not sure what it says in there. But that's who Russell was. Russell was real.
You sure it's not a joint?
No, it's not a joke. That would slide out really easy. It's not. It is a big fat one, but no, he was, it was interesting because, especially when he came out to Redwood, because he hadn't been to California and he knew nothing more than the way, my first 2 years here, when people would open the door for me or say thank you or hi, I'd look at him like, when in the 80s, when I first moved here, like, what's your angle? What do you want? And then, obviously it took me a couple of years to learn. That's just, how the West is different than the East. And they both have, I wouldn't have wanted it any differently than growing up in the East and then settling in the West, because they both bring tons of value. And then Russell saw that. And then Russell started to acclimate to the California, San Francisco for that matter. He would spend every dime on his days off going out, and he'd come back to me and he's like, hey, I ate here, blah, blah. And I'm like, why did you eat there? And he's like, I know, I should have asked you before. And he's like, but I didn't want to be like a bird. I didn't want to be like a bird. And I'm like, no, dude, tell me what you want to learn. Tell me what you want to see, and I'll send you there. But that was Russell. He was still, even challenged at work with I call them my California raisins, my crew, versus him being like a planter's peanut from New York, hard. He wanted to learn, not only through me, but through the city. He was a sponge, Bobby, like you said. He was a sponge for knowledge, and he was a sponge for having a good time. And if people got him, if people didn't get him, he didn't give, he wouldn't care to, he wouldn't give 2 cents if you didn't get him. And
he was
I watched him in this kitchen with all these guys pecking at him, like hens or roosters, whatever. And he never he never flailed, or he never, he's just stood tall. And the more he did that, he actually helped me teach my crew a lesson, because he was such an inspiration to me that I would look at him when they would, saggy diapers and, complain. I'd be like, look, you guys have tried everything. This guy's resilient. So why don't you learn from this young man versus trying to tear him down? So,
Yeah.
So between meeting you and meeting Bobby, he went to the CIA and he met Carolyn. And Carolyn was, like I said, the valedictorian of his class. And Russell, for those of you who don't know, Russell was very learning disabled. And every day he would go to the learning center to get books on tape. And he would plan, he was a great planner. He would plan a 10-minute nap. He would plan to read this chapter at such and such a time, because he had to read things 2 or 3 times to really try and understand them. But Carolyn was his rock there. So, right, Carolyn?
He was mine too. So, I mean, I went in a very shy, timid person, and he really helped bring me out of my shell and helped me learn how to, let my presence be known in the kitchen, which is very important, especially as a woman. So,
Yeah. How was it? Like, were people in that kitchen also confrontational with him? Because I feel like it's funny to hear George tell those stories about how, like, the New York attitude, but I feel like Russell was even more than just like the New York attitude. Like, he was one of the, king of the ball busters. He was able to not just work circles around you, but also talk circles around you. He was good at that.
Definitely could talk circles around people. I mean, I think we, as a group, all got along pretty well. I maybe remember one person, but he did wind up coming back after externship. So
No one ever accused Russell of being shy.
no, not at all.
No, and I like what George said about him looking you in the eye, because he did that from when he was very, very little. I mean, 5 years old, he looked at his teachers in school, and he considered them equal.
Yeah, he definitely told things like they were. He did not sugarcoat anything.
We were talking the other night about how after you guys graduated, there were a lot of kids from your graduating class that were they're extra upset, not just because Russell had passed away, but they were clearly having counted on him for a job after he started building his empire.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, he definitely had some big plans. And
well, Jordon, on that note, and David and Dorothy and everyone else on the call, I mean, Russell has done this with the foundation, because he's getting people educations versus jobs. So I think he's completing, and he's doing, his dream,
Thank you for that. That's great.
yeah, definitely. It's a really good way to look at it.
I mean, it really was amazing, though, going back to something that Bobby said about how Russell really fit there and needed that kind of energy to occupy him. It is kind of amazing how quickly he became so immersed in that world. Because he had been a socialite and a club promoter, and he was sort of all over the place. Didn't really know what he wanted to do. He just wanted to be. He liked being around people. He liked being busy. He was always a good connector of people. And always a good host, always a good, I had a good palate, I think. And it was interesting that my dad didn't want to spend any more money on education, because he was probably not going to stick with it. But literally that first day when he came back from Mesa Grill, he was like, "This is it. I found it. I'm dizzy."
And he came back with a piece of fish. Now, Jordan,
Smelling like fish, because they had him scaling in the basement
right, and
all evening, all night long.
And Russell wouldn't eat anything that came from the sea. He wouldn't. He wouldn't even look
He wasn't
at
a
it.
fish lover.
So,
but he came home and said, "This is it. This is what I want to do."
Yeah.
The energy in that kitchen, he said, every time I brought up a tray, they'd let me stand sort of at the edge of the kitchen, and the energy of what goes on, the way people deal, all the cooks are dealing with each other and moving things around. He said, I've never seen anything like it. That's what I want to be doing the rest of my life.
but Bobby, you
Smelling like a fish.
no, and Bobby, you run a kitchen that's very friendly and very helpful and respectful of each other, which I think not all kitchens are as good as yours.
Well, that's very nice of you. But I mean, look, here's the thing. It's like what I was saying before was that, my kitchens are always, we always try to have a good time at the same time of working hard. I think that that's really the most important. It's important to have that balance. You know, it can't just all be like put your head down and only focus on, you know, work, you know, for 12 hours a day. I mean, you have to have fun while you're doing it. And I think that like he exhibited like immediate, like, let's put it this way, lots of smiles, you know, while he was working. And the other thing I remember was that like, as soon as work was over, he was dressed to go out. Like he was like, we were like, you know, he was sort of the young buck in the kitchen, which I had been for like so many of my years before I wasn't. And like I just knew exactly like what he was up to. Like he was going to hit the clubs. He was going to be out really late at night. And I mean, I'm sure George can like tell stories about this. I mean, we'd go out Friday nights and then like not go to sleep before we were cooking brunch the next morning. I mean, it was like, we went from like, you know, cooking, you know, Saturday night service to like cracking eggs for brunch without any sleep and lots of other stuff in between. And that's just the way it was. I mean, it was just part of what the restaurant business was. And frankly, I miss that part of it. You know, it's, I mean, I can't do it anymore just because I just can't, but it was like, that's what the business was made up of. And we all hung out together. It was great.
Well, you know, we came out to San Francisco for Russell's 21st birthday when he was working for George, and Russell's birthday is New Year's Eve, and he let Russell go early, and he sat and had dinner with us. Like he started his shit, you know, half of the dinner he was in the kitchen, and then he came out and sat with us, and he told us that George had told him, enjoy this because this is the last birthday you're ever going to spend outside of a kitchen.
Right.
But that was a great dinner.
It was a fabulous dinner.
An amazing dinner.
It was.
And my friend Penny came from England for Russell's 21st because I had flown to England for her kid's 21st birthday. So it was.
Cut you off there as well, Carolyn. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was gonna say I seem to remember he wore a Gucci belt with his chef uniform for class, and I remember Prada shoes as well.
Yeah,
and a watch.
Really just to impress.
And he would wear his watch while he was in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I found a picture of him. His watch is like gleaming.
And he wore it very prideful. And that's the thing that, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, with the East meets West thing that happened out here, that he didn't even miss a beat. And if they were commenting about it, he just shook his head and finished the task at hand and then took another one on without. And the other thing that, Dorothy and David, he drove out here in a Cherokee, didn't he? He had a Cherokee Jeep.
Yeah.
He drove out here, and I believed he lived in North Beach during his. Yeah.
Right off Washington.
And they couldn't believe it, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. He's not, you know, he's not a prima donna. He earned that. He saved his money. He worked really hard. You know, he drove out here on his own. He didn't fly out here and get. I said if he.
I drove with him. It wasn't on his own. We drove out together.
Okay. Well, point being, if they thought he was a spoon-fed baby, he would have been flown out here. The apartment would have been already, furnished, waiting for him. And that wasn't the case. You know,
and it wouldn't
like
have
you
been
said, David, you drove out with him. They searched for an apartment, and he made ends meet. I mean, that's the thing that we're all saying here. That he knew how to rub two rocks to make fire. So.
He really wanted to get an internship where he got paid because he didn't want to take money from us. I remember that very clearly. I also remember, though.
And you paid well, as I recall.
I also remember, though, when that there was some woman who worked in the kitchen there who was apparently must have been very jealous of Russell because he'd get everything finished for the night and he'd go home and he'd come back in the morning and his station was a mess. And he learned that it was this girl who was unhappy and she would sort of sabotage things for him. And he never told you. I know that.
Was it a pastry girl? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
They weren't very.
You gonna fire it tonight, George?
Don't take this the wrong way. Take this the wrong way. But there was not very many women on the savory side in my kitchen, so I think I know who it was. But another attribute to Russell that he didn't say who it was. So.
No, he would never complain.
He would never.
He would never complain.
Even when he should have, he never ever told on it somebody.
No, he didn't.
On a couple of occasions, he suffered very serious.
Yeah.
Right.
He was fiercely loyal. He was, you know,
He
he had
wasn't
that kind
the
of
bad
loyalty.
Turn in the bad guy.
No,
The bad-
Russell understood what friendship and real bonds were, I think, more so than a lot of people do, you know, making those kinds of, having the loyalty of his was, you know, because once you lost it, that you could never get it back.
Well, you know
Well,
what? He
again,
learned a lot of
I go
things.
back to, that's ingrained in your upbringing and family, right?
But
Trust.
you know,
you know.
Russell was very homophobic for a long time, and we never figured out why, because we had gay friends and he knew gay people. But at Bobby, there was a fellow at Gia, I think his name
Miss
was.
Columbia.
Still works for me.
Miss Columbia, he
Yeah.
was called.
Does
She
she
still works
work
for me.
in
Still
Vegas,
works for you.
in Vegas now, right?
In Las Vegas, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And he and Russell really hooked up.
they bonded, and
He
that
was a
changed
terrific.
Russell's attitude towards gays,
He
which was
became
great.
sort of a small mentor in the kit, you know, in the working portion of the kitchen when Russell was, and Russell fell in love with this guy, and said something wrong with me, and he totally changed his thinking about an issue that could have been a real problem for him. That he, anyway.
You see, you learn a lot of things when you work in the kitchen, not just about the cooking.
Oh, 100%.
Now, Carolyn has her own business called The Little Cakes, which the cakes look fabulous.
Thanks.
Yeah, you do make
Yeah,
some.
just something I can do at home and take care of the boys, since my husband is also in the restaurant industry, and so one of us had to be home. So
Yeah. How are you doing during the pandemic? How has that business been going?
it kind of stopped for a while. People are finally starting to pick up. So I have a few for this weekend, but it's slow for sure.
Yeah.
What's the current situation in Dallas? I haven't heard about the pandemic in
Her
Dallas.
kids are in school.
I know.
Well, we're a suburb. I know Dallas was hit harder than we were. In this, we're a little bit north. But the kids just started school, and Ryan just started a new restaurant, and he said they've been pretty busy. So we're at 50% capacity in the restaurant, so I guess that's pretty fortunate, because I know you guys are still outside, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Out here as well.
Yeah.
What's happening in Vegas, Bobby? Are restaurants open in Vegas?
Some of the casinos are open. My Mesa Grill is open about, I think it's, now it's 5 days a week, as opposed to, we're only open for 5 dinners as opposed to, 14 services, lunch and dinner a week. And it's not, it's limited. The business is limited. Let's put it that
And
way.
you have another restaurant besides Mesa there, don't you? You have Shark.
Yeah, but Shark, the Palms hasn't reopened at all.
Oh, okay.
So we're all closed in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you, George? What's happening with you these days?
I'm a full-time mother.
Kimpton must be
unfortunately, there's a few things. I have some, I've got a couple of ideas. I'm thinking about moving up to the Valley. It's somewhere I love, but now with all this going on, it's like one half dozen of one or the other. You get out of the city with the homelessness and the political bullshit, and then you go up there to be somewhere. I love growing stuff. I love gardens. I love, I have a lot of friends up there, from Michael Chiarello to Thomas to some other folks up there that have, that thank God, because of the weather right now, they have the outdoor seating where they're doing Bobby, listen, they're doing like $55,000 Saturdays and Sundays.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, because they got about 150 seats outside on the lawn.
Yeah, because you guys.
Yeah, but that's going to end. That's going to end now in a month.
Right.
So
when the weather turns.
All right. So that being said, I lost my buddy, my best friend in July. I had a French bulldog. He was 14 years old. He was my pal. He lived a long time. So I don't want to. I have the time right now to Kimpton. So Kimpton got acquired by IHG right when I started. so we were just part of their portfolio. And obviously with the pandemic, we made it to like June, and in June, they furloughed some of us, and then that went for 90 days. And then after the 90 days, I just got the call that they're tearing the whole thing down. So it's been it's been a rough 2 months, but I have got some ideas, and I have some time, and I'm thinking about, I know when, just like Russell and stuff, when he gets frustrated, I know when I did a little research, the only country that's across the pond that's allowing people in is
Ireland.
Dubrovnik.
Croatia,
and
isn't it?
Croatia, yeah, Croatia, but the city of Dubrovnik would be ideal. It's somewhere I've never been. I've never been there with a woman. I've never been there
I think you can
alone.
go to Ireland also.
Okay, I didn't see that. Ireland's
yeah.
another place I haven't been that I'd love to go. But I thought maybe going, getting out of here and sitting on the coast and eating seafood, mom and pop kind of place, doing like an Anthony Bourdain kind of, coastal Croatia, Dubrovnik thing, and seeing if my daughter was available to come, because my significant other is up to her neck, thank God, in business and working. So I think it'd be a good time to maybe just reset the mindset. As Bobby said earlier, it's a, what'd you say? It's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
The world is a mess.
And I came from a company where the restaurants were attached to hotels, and that's even a bigger mess.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, I think you're just agreeing.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
agreeing with
So-
you. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, I just think it's time that we learn about. We're learning a lot about ourselves right now, as human beings, as spouses, as partners, as business people, as citizens, as we well know, with a lot of tension that's going around in the major cities. It's time for a little reset, and then Bobby and Carolyn as well, different aspects of the industry. It's time to really do a think tank and to really be prepared for when things do go back to, I guess, whatever the normal is going to be in a year or two. It's going to be a different model. It's going to be, part of me, Bobby, thinks that if this goes on for 2 years, that people are going to want to come back to a really incredible dining experience. But again, it's not a conversation I'd love to have with you, off of this call, but I don't know where it's going. I really don't. I think your concepts are, hit the mainstream, and I think you'll be able to pick up once the politicians allow you to. And it'll take time to get back to the numbers that you were doing. But I think if this goes on for another 2 months, I know it's going to go on to the election. We all know that. That's going to be like 7 months. And hopefully if things go my way, we'll be open, and we will build our businesses back to, maybe it'll take probably to about this time next year if things get open and we, make new business models. But people are tired of being cooped up. I mean, who wants to? You imagine if you couldn't cook? Whoever said it earlier on this call, and you're getting DoorDash every night or whatever, however you want to.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that are doing that.
Right, and that gets old, and you're going to want, twofold. Hopefully, well, first of all, the fees that those people charge you are like, I don't know what it is in New York, guys, but if I get a pizza delivered here, it comes out to about $45 by the time it hits my door. It's just like, come on. So, anyway, I think I think we have to look at the silver lining in all this, right? I'm always, just like Russell, going to get back to Russell and Bobby and everybody and Carolyn and all the Ferbers here on the call, because we are very positive, influential, glass half full people. And the silver lining is that hopefully all of us as humans, as professionals, as family, come out of this with learning something in a new perspective that we can, like Bobby and I have, Sophia and Sydney are a couple of years apart here. I only have one daughter, so I do my best to give her the best advice and politically. We're not on the same platform, but that's okay because it makes for good conversation. And she's my daughter, and she can take me on. I love it. But
I'd be in trouble if we weren't on the same page.
what's that?
I said I would be in big trouble if Jordon and I weren't on the same page politically, because I'm.
Yeah, she like Russell. She does not hold back on any of her opinions. She's
Well, that's great, but that's why we live in America, guys.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's okay. I think
We can say we have the ability as a family, or to say in a cafe in public. Be careful if you're in California, though. What's on your mind, and that's the beauty of it. So, but that's all different direction. I just want to get back to what Russell has contributed, what you guys as a family. Jordon, you as a brother, I know how hard this has been 13 years later.
18. We're at 18
had the
years
pleasure
later.
to get
18 years.
I'm sorry,
Has it been that long already?
I know this past July was 18 years.
18 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
And Jordon, you know, we become good friends. I've, you know, hung out with you in New York. You come out to San Francisco. I loved your show on New Year's Day here. That was freaking awesome. But it goes back to, guys, what I was saying earlier, and I don't want to take up all the mic here. It's about family, guys, and that's why we're all on this call right now. Jordon,
Yeah.
you know, we don't have to rehash. I know what you've been through, and I know what you still go through. But the love you have for your brother, the respect you have for your brother, the respect you have for your parents, the love you guys have as a family is a virtue that I don't want to see go away in this world.
No, me either. But
Well, thanks. You know, I have to say, you know, my parents are amazing, and they're, you know, part of the reason why Russell and I had that bond in the first place. But it's also, you know, I'm lucky that I have so many people that I get to surround myself with who are on the same page with us about that idea, about family, about what it is to, you know, to really appreciate people that you have in your life. And I think that, you know, the reason that we get to do this fundraiser every year with the success that we've had is because of all of the people, not just that help us put the thing together, but all the people that just come out and support what we do. And it's heartwarming. And I don't know, I honestly don't know how I would have managed to do any of the, you know, this stuff without Russell, without having this fundraiser, without having this thing that we get to do to share his energy and to share his legacy. You know, I think, and this year in particular, the fact that we get to share so many of the people that are, you know, never on stage with us when we have our event, you know, that we have all these people that knew Russell and want to be able to help share in his energy and love as well. I think that's, you know, I can't thank you guys enough for doing this. I mean, this is like, you know, this is going to be the highlight of my month.
I'm so happy I actually get to participate in one of the fundraisers.
yes,
Yeah.
Karen is going to teach people how to ice a cake. I mean, I'm a very good baker, but I cannot ice a cake for the life of me. And
Me neither.
I've tried everything. You either? It makes me feel better.
No, Jordon, I want to say what you just said was just beautiful about your brother. And I just want you to know, I think why we're still, you know, why you're still spearheading everything is because he's with you in spirit, and he's with you in spirit, and you know that, and he would want nothing more than what you've been doing. So
Absolutely.
you know,
Been
that's
wanting to be alive.
It's an amazing thing, my friend.
You know, I hope that he would be proud of what we're doing. I know that we try to embody him. You know, every time I cut a line or you know, and don't have to wait for something, I always feel like that's Russell intervening on my behalf.
He's actually kicking you in the ass from behind.
You know, I want to share this story. A lot of people I know have maybe heard this story before, but a couple of years ago, I was in Tucson, Arizona for my National Bereavement Conference. And when it was over, me and a couple of friends, we drove in and did some sightseeing in Tucson. And we went to the restaurant that Russell had worked at in Tucson before he started going to culinary school. And it had been so long, nobody there, you know, I didn't had to mention it to anybody. But at the end of our dinner, we were just sitting, finishing our wine. The waitress comes over. We had ordered one dessert. The waitress came over, unprompted. I didn't call her over anything. She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry that your dessert is taking longer than expected. We're taking care of it." And in my mind, there's no clearer sign that Russell comped our dessert, you know.
Sure.
Place is still there. Bistro Zin was.
No, the
Bistro
first
Zin is still there, but the other place is also there. Wildflower. Wildflower is the name of it.
Wildflower.
Yeah.
Wildflower and the pastry chef there was Karen Ames, also known as Spike.
And Wildflower, though, was in Boulder.
No, Bloom was in Boulder.
Bloom was in Boulder.
Oh, Bloom, right. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
confused. Right.
So
Well, I don't want to keep anybody that's watching too long on this either, and I don't want to keep you guys. We could talk forever, but if there's anybody
What next week?
yeah, we have our live comedy show next week, live streaming from the Zinc Bar. So hopefully you guys will tune in for that. And we had hoped to have our silent auction up and running by this very moment, but the snags of technology, we'll have it up tomorrow.
and Carolyn is going to teach people how to ice a cake. She told me she has a brand new technique that's very easy, and I'm
Maybe she can teach Bobby then, because
I need to know. I'm the worst.
It's super easy. It's upside down. If you do it upside down, it's
Okay, I really need to
sounds
know.
weird, but
Do it upside
Somebody
down.
just, I just got
Icing-
last
icing it
season I got
bottom?
challenged on Beat Bobby Flay on on icing like a wedding cake, and my cake was it was so awful. I kept saying how rustic it was.
I'm pretty
The
sure
bad word.
a guy that I worked with,
Wedding cake.
I think was on Beat Bobby Flay.
Oh, who was it?
Beto. He and his son, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't- It was a while ago.
A friend of mine was a judge on Beat Bobby Flay, I believe. A comedian, my friend Rich Aronovich.
Oh yeah. Sure.
He's been on a number of times.
Absolutely.
I'm just a viewer.
He was he's a comedian who I've known for a number of years. He was on our I believe our second fundraiser as a comedian. He just moved to Virginia, otherwise he would be here.
Does he act sanely when he's a judge? Does he act like he's sane when he's a judge?
I don't know if he acts sane ever. I mean,
Well, I love
Well, that's the question. I mean,
I love when he was on the show. He told this wonderful joke because he used to really make fun of Jordon still living at home after Russell died, and he would always be railing into Jordon about living at home and living at home and living at home. And then when he came, and then he wasn't in New York, and he was visiting. And where did he stay? He stayed with us.
in Jordan's room.
Right.
in my
He might
room.
have Jordan's bedroom.
Right.
Of course.
Well, I do tell people that you've turned my bedroom into a guest room, of which I am a frequent guest.
Right.
Well, I stayed there too, so
Yeah.
Right. But we're waiting for you to come back, actually.
I'm dying to come back. We were supposed to do it this summer, but plans got foiled.
Yeah, don't come this.
And I always let Sydney know that, that she has a place to stay with you guys.
Always.
bet.
And
You bet.
I'll never forget that evening when we, the three of us sat on the four of us, Sydney with me, out on your deck, and you went and got pastries for her, and then for her and I, we went to the 9/11 memorial, and it was, we left your house at 10 at night or something, and there's this little young Irish or whatever Queens cop, and he's making a play on Sydney, and I'm just shaking my head saying, dude, you're going barking up the wrong tree here. And anyway, he let us in, behind the ropes, and then from there we went up to the Seinfeld diner and then headed back home to my parents' house. So that was and I actually spoke to her, telling her the beginning of this week that I was going to do this with you guys, and she sends her love. And
Yeah, well, send her our love too. And I've never met Sophie, Bobby, but I've watched you on television with her, and I've seen pictures of her. She's been growing up, and she's really become a lovely young woman.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very proud of her. She
You should be.
Yeah,
makes me look like I know what I'm doing as a parent.
like you did a good job.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys all for being here. I don't know if anybody has any parting words, but certainly, cheers to Russell and to you
Yeah,
guys.
absolutely.
And
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate
Tune
it.
in next Wednesday for the comedy show, everybody. Hey, you guys.
hey,
And-
Jordan, let me
Carolyn?
let me know how Sydney can watch this at some point. Okay, It'd be
yep,
great.
it'll be up. I'm going to post it up on the YouTube channel shortly.
Yeah, just give me a text so I can send it to her. Okay.
I sure will.
All right, David, Dorothy,
Thanks,
love you.
guys.
All
Thanks
right,
so
Carolyn,
much.
Carolyn,
Thanks,
nice to meet you.
Nice
Bobby,
to meet you.
talk to you soon, buddy.
You're the
Good to
man.
see everyone.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Jordan.
See you. Carolyn,
All right.
send our love to Ryan and all the boys.
I will. Love to you guys. Hopefully I get to see you in person sometime soon.
Yes, I hope so too.
Take care.
Yeah, okay.